Honestly, it grieves me that I continue to see videos like this out of JD Farag week after week, year after year, where the man says things that are completely ridiculous, that are biblically unfounded, um, not to mention historically unfounded. He's so filled with error. I can't even begin to tell you how many just in April 19th's video, how many errors are in there, both historically and biblically. It's amazing. And he tells you to check things out for yourself. If you've watched this video by JD Farag, I'd highly recommend that, yes, you go check these things out for yourself. He's not telling the truth. And in some cases, I think he's deliberately not telling the truth. In other cases, I think he's just ignorant. He's just repeating what he's been told. For example, uh, David Wilkerson did not ever once write or say back in 1980s that there would be a virus that would take down New York and spread throughout the country and close the churches and the bars. Never said that. His own family has stepped forward and said, we have no record of him ever saying that or writing that. So this thing has been swirling around as a rumor. It sounded great to JD Frog because, hey, the more hype, the better. Let me just toss that in there. So he didn't say that. Um, he quotes a guy from the 50s that supposedly said, bring us this man and we will worship him whether he's the God or the devil. Can't find that anywhere. That's nowhere in any record of anybody ever having said that or this man having said that. It's only in the pre-trib hype fueled websites. You can't find it in any serious place. So, and then not to mention all that, but he's going to go on here today and he's going to flat out admit with his own mouth that he has been misleading people for 14 years. And then he's going to tell you that's okay. I should keep doing it. Let me just remind everybody, JD Farag is the same guy who back on March 1st said this.
Again, I might get in trouble when I say this. I thank God for the coronavirus. Pastor, you really are sick and
Yeah.
you need help.
Yeah, you really are sick. You are demented and twisted, JD, because God says to thank him for our tribulation, ours. So, JD, yeah, you can thank God for your own tribulation. How dare you thank God for everybody else's tribulation? Because at the point that he said this, he wasn't being touched by the coronavirus. He still had a church full of people at this point. He never mentioned once that he knew of anybody who was sick or that he knew anybody had lost their job. 3 or 4 weeks later, he's putting out videos of, oh, I'm so sorry for all you people in my church that I know that have lost jobs. And yeah, it's so hard. And yeah. Not going to take this video down, though, where he says, I thank God. Look at his face. He's happy about this. He thinks this is great. He says in this same video that he's giddy with excitement over it. He loves it when stuff like this happens. That means Jesus is coming sooner. That's the kind of individual we're talking about here, okay?
The truth is that none of us can know for sure. However, and please hear me out on this.
Why?
With each passing day, it's looking like this could in fact be it. I hope you don't tire of me saying this, but I'd rather be ready for this to be it and have it not be it than not be ready only to have this be it.
Not even sure what that means. He says that a lot. And JD, that makes no sense because if you're talking to Christians, we are ready. We're going to heaven whether we even believe in a rapture or not. You've said that. So there's nothing to be ready for. And if you're not a Christian, well, okay, I understand that, but we'll get to that in a second. We'll get to whether or not what you're saying is actually a good idea or a bad idea.
I suppose that I could rightly be accused of not wanting anyone's blood on my hands, and I'll explain what I mean by that.
By taking scripture out of context.
Like with the watchman on the wall in Ezekiel, who didn't warn the people of what was coming. The blood of those people was on the hands of that watchman because that watchman did not warn the people.
JD, you are not a watchman, okay? Watchmen don't cry wolf. Watchmen don't give false warnings. Watchmen don't say, well, this might be it. Hey, everybody in the town below me, gear up for battle because we might be attacked here. I might be wrong, but we might be right. We might. That's not a watchman. Watchman doesn't cry false alarms. Not to mention the fact that there's no such thing as any watchman in the church today. There's no office of watchman. Okay, you're not held accountable for anything, JD. You're out of line. You're out of place. You have no right and no business reading the news, speculating about what it means, telling everybody this is it, and then being wrong week after week after week. That's not a watchman. That is not a job for anyone in the church. And if you are going to claim yourself as a watchman unto the Lord here, then you need to be held accountable by people. You don't just get to say whatever you want.
I have to warn you that it looks like this is what's coming.
That is not a watchman's warning. He doesn't say this looks like it, JD. He says this is it, and then he's right. Because I guarantee you, in the old days, if a watchman continued to cry wolf, he would be relieved of his post immediately and probably executed for what he had done.
For the Christian, it's the rapture. For the non-Christian, unspeakable, unthinkable horror, global, catastrophic destruction.
So here's JD, a pastor of a church, claiming that as a watchman, his real job is to warn you of global destruction and horror. False. That is a false warning. He's to be warning people of eternal damnation, eternity away from God, eternal punishment. JD, I don't care what your fevered imagination can come up with as to how horrible this 7-year fantasy time period is going to be like. You can feverishly think up anything you want. As horrible as you can imagine, it doesn't even come close to being to eternal damnation. And actually, if I told him that to his face, he would agree with me. But here he is standing up here wasting valuable time warning the lost that they better get saved because they got to escape this time of horrible. He's got his eyes squeezed shut. It's the worst ever. Who cares about hell for eternity? We're not talking about that right now. We need to really warn you about this thing that's even worse, apparently. Really? This thing that's never happened before, ever in the history of mankind? That's still to come? It's lurking around the corner every week? That never happens? Week after week, this guy beats the drum on this? Never comes to pass?
It is my belief that where all of this is heading, it's pointing to the rapture of the Church of Jesus Christ, which can happen at any time.
Now, notice it. If you preach the gospel that way, I guarantee you, your congregation would throw you out of the pulpit. It's my belief that the way it looks is that we should believe in Jesus and his everlasting blood atonement for our salvation of our sins, I think, so that we can be back in fellowship with the Father, I suppose. But that's what it looks like, I need to warn you, just in case it's correct, that, see how he's fudging all the time? It's like a combination of I'm sure and I'm not sure at the same time.
Now, I know that I've been saying this every week for the last 14 years since we started doing these weekly prophecy updates, but again, please just hear my heart when I say this. I have never had the urgency that I do today with this current crisis.
JD, you have said that 100 times the last 14 years. It's always I've never been, this is the worst ever, oh God, oh. And in 1 year, when this is all behind us, for good or bad, are you going to come back and say, yeah, I kind of overplayed my hand there a little? No, you never have. It's just every year, once a year on average, maybe twice, you come out and you try to defuse this bomb. I know, I say it all the time, but I just need you to know I'd rather be wrong. and you get sick. I'd rather be wrong and having said it than right and having not said it, and all this mumbo jumbo silliness. He gets worse.
And the reason is that this aforementioned resetting of the entire world order is ultimately realized, and I'll even say finalized, after the rapture and in the tribulation. In other words, we're beginning to see this come to pass now.
Huh?
Jesus in Luke 21:28 said, when you see these things like what I just shared, beginning to come to pass, look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draws nigh. That only applies to the believer.
Where in Luke 21 does it talk about a one world government, a new world order, or anything remotely like you just said? Where? Where? And things like these, he says, that begin to come to pass? Really? You ever read Luke 21, JD? What will be the sign when these things shall come to pass? Well, many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ. Well, that's not what he said just now. You shall hear of wars and commotions. Nope, that's not what it. By the way, when he says this, you'll hear of these things. These things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. J.D. Farag doesn't believe the Bible, period. He doesn't believe it. Wars and commotions mean it's not near. And he says every week that it means it is near. Go check him out. Watch him. He doesn't believe Jesus. But he's going to stand behind that pulpit and tell you he does. Nation shall rise against nation. Nope, nothing about that here. Great earthquakes? Nope. Okay, pestilences. But he didn't talk about them in that little spiel he just did. Before all these days shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering up to the synagogues. What? This sounds like Jews persecuting Christians. When did that happen recently, JD? This is beginning to come to pass. It's beginning to come to pass, man. When? Turn to you for a testimony, settle it. I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which you'll not be able to gain. I want one story about this happening. Just one story about that. Being put to death, hated of all men. There's nothing in here about any new world order, any global government coming to pass. Nothing.
Fine.
Sorry.
Well, you might say, well, I'm watching this and I would not profess to be a Christian. I would not say that I am a believer. Well, I want to say to you that you're watching this video because God led you to this video, and you need to seek the Lord while he can still be found before it's too late.
Before it's too late for what? Before it's too late for what? He doesn't get to that right there. So if there was a lost person watching this video, he never told him what's supposed to get. He never told him what he might be too late for. They could have just turned off the video and left and said, you know what? I've watched this guy 3 years ago once, and he was talking about the end was near, and it never came, and he's still saying it, and it's not probably near this time. So you know what? I'm done. I'm done listening to this fool who continues to predict the future, and it never comes to pass. I'm not going to listen to him anymore. Is that what you want on your head, watchman?
This is what's coming, and I have to warn you. I am keenly aware that there may be some who would say, well, Pastor J.D., you're like that boy who cried wolf. You know the story of the boy who cried wolf?
Yes, I do.
Wolf, and then no wolf came. He cried wolf. No wolf came. He cried wolf the third time, and nobody listened. But then the wolf came. Well,
nobody listened.
I don't know if I could be accused of that rightfully so, but here's what I do know. I do know that the Apostle Paul in Acts 20 cried about wolves in sheep's clothing.
Oh my gosh.
That would not spare the flock. In fact,
are you trying to distract from the point, JD? Notice how he's going down one path and then he changes the subject. What Paul talked about with wolves has nothing to do with what you just raised. You just raised a point that's very true. It's the only truth you've spoken so far. You cry wolf. And then you want to defuse that bomb because you feel it. You feel that bomb over your head. That's why you're talking the way you're talking today. You feel it. You feel the pressure of having gone 14 years promising every week that this is it, this is it, this is it. It's not it. And now bad things are actually starting to happen to people, and they're still not out of here like you've been professing. And now you're starting to feel the pressure, aren't you? That's what's going on here. So, in a lame attempt to defuse the bomb, you're going to bring it out on the table, and then you're going to change the subject on people. That's what he just did.
I don't know if I could be accused of that rightfully so, but here's what I do know. I do know that the Apostle Paul in Acts 20 cried about wolves in sheep's clothing.
Mr. Farag, did Paul the Apostle cry wolf like you're doing? Did the Apostle Paul cry wolf? Don't you dare say that. Don't you dare open that mouth of yours behind that pulpit and tell people that the Apostle Paul did what you're doing right now. How dare you talk that way, sir?
That would not spare the flock. In fact,
it's got nothing to do with what you're talking
Acts
about.
20 that the Apostle Paul wept day and night for 3 years because he knew that the wolves were coming.
Disgusting. This has nothing to do with what you're talking about. The Apostle Paul didn't get on behind a pulpit every week and open the newspaper and tell his people, look at the news, Jesus is coming soon. He didn't do that, and that's not what it's talking about right here.
Fine, I'm the boy who cried wolf, but here's the thing. Think about
it. Wait, did he just say what I think he said?
Apostle Paul wept day and night for 3 years because he knew that the wolves were coming. Fine, I'm the boy who cried wolf, but here's the thing. Think about this. The wolf did come.
And no one listened. Did you? Yes, Jesus might come. And no one's listening because you've lied to them for years. Do you understand the point of the story? The point of this story is lost on this man because this man has no truth in him. The tale concerns a shepherd boy who repeatedly tricks nearby villagers into thinking a wolf is attacking. When a wolf actually does appear, like JD says, and the boy cries again for help, as JD would do in this story, the villagers believe it's another false alarm, and the sheep are eaten. JD thinks that's perfectly okay to have that on his conscience, apparently. Yep, I'm the boy who cried wolf. I'm a liar, he just said.
Wolf did come. I am here today to say to you that Jesus will come, and it might be sooner than any of us could ever think or imagine.
All right, I'm done here. I am so thoroughly disgusted. I can't even. The guy just stood behind a pulpit, did he not, and admit that he's been lying for 14 years? And did he not just take on that title of boy who cried wolf? And do you not understand that the story of the boy who cried wolf is one of a boy who lied, and so that when the wolf did come, nobody listened. So the boy who kept telling us that Jesus is coming, and he never came because he lied, Jesus does come upon the world, nobody's listening anymore because of this guy right here, and they all go to hell. And this man is standing up there behind his pulpit and telling everybody that and accepting that on his own head. Wow, wow, wow. I just can't even believe anyone believes this crap nonsense story anymore after you get these people exposing themselves like this. How on earth can any of you guys believe and follow these people? It just baffles me. What a horrific thing to say. This beats him being giddy and thanking God for the coronavirus that other people are having to deal with. This is even worse because this is talking about matters of eternity. Shame on you, shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. JD Farag.